Are we truly alone in the universe? Years ago, I saw some bizarre lights in the sky, and my curiosity was piqued. This led me down a rabbit hole to discover who these visitors might be and where they might come from. On my journey, I found out that many other people were having these direct encounters with beings from other dimensions, and that I too could communicate with them directly. Happy Sunday, everybody. I'm coming from a different location here in the Midwest in Wisconsin. And we have today Sarah Breskman Cosme, which I see Wade laughing again because I always screw that up.
It's all right.
He's never gonna get it. But what a cool name.
Create a mental block.
Thanks.
For you.
Yeah.
Well, I'm married and I was just lazy. I never changed my name because his name is Cosme. So, I had to throw it on there somewhere, but no one can get it.
No one can get it. Yeah. It's a tongue twister. Because your brain, I'm so used to cosmos, and you see that and you're just like, what's that last part? How do you pronounce that? I don't know. Anyways, we know each other. I had the honor of meeting you on this cruise event that we did. How long? It was several months now.
It was April. Yeah.
Right.
It was April.
What a awesome adventure that was. And you meeting you and hanging out with you and doing the work we did was such a highlight of that event. And I've actually got it posted here on the members page. The regression session with Heather, the first one we did. And so a lot of people have tuned in and watched that. And, Wade was there in person and it was a lot of fun. But there's so many crisscrosses with the people we know and the work we're doing, and a lot to unpack today. So first off, as you were just saying, Suzanne Spooner, who's also I interviewed for the main series in season 3. You guys work together. You're sort of colleagues and students of Dolores Cannon. Can you tell us your connections with Suzanne and how did you guys meet?
We met, I think it was 2019 at one of the QHHT reunions, and we just became instant friends because we're so similar. And recently, like maybe a year and a half ago, Suzanne called me out of the blue and she said, I had the strangest dream that you need to take people to Egypt, and base it off of your books and take people on trips. And I thought, wow, that would be great. But I would only do that if you would do that with me, Suzanne.
Right.
So fast forward last May was our first one, and we've started taking people to Egypt together, and they've been mind-blowing. So I show people what I've learned through my sessions, the best things to do in these places are. And then Suzanne and we've developed like these meditations to do in these sacred places so that each person can find out for themselves what kind of information they themselves can tap into. I also tell them everything I know about the sacred places, but I feel like it's way more interesting for people to really find out how these sacred places are actually calling them. And I help them kind of realign with that. So Suzanne and I do that twice a year now. So we're really good, close friends, actually.
So this last trip, was that the first time you guys did it?
That was the first time. We didn't know what to expect, but everyone just left there so changed. I mean, you could ask anyone on the trip. They kept saying it was just so enlightening for them. People were healing themselves. It was really amazing, actually. It was amazing for me. I couldn't believe I got to do that, something so magical. I mean, we got to travel all around, and we went on camels down through the desert with the pyramids. It was just really amazing. So
a lot of information. Yeah, a lot of information that is come through your books around the Sphinx and around that land and, the pyramids and the magic around that. Were you able to sort of collaborate or double check any of those stories physically, being there, seeing that?
It was amazing because there's so much evidence there. It's just amazing. But, I don't want to give it away, but in a
Yeah,
way,
give it
it's
away. We're
kind of
all, yeah.
interesting. But when you go to these sacred places, you see all these symbols and all these signs, everywhere in all the sacred places. But from what I've learned over the years, the secrets are really that it leads back to yourself because you are the key. You are
Mm.
what you're searching for. So you go through the world and you're like, wow, look at that clue. Look at this clue. And then you learn that it's really you because the secrets are in you. And that's why I like taking people and doing these meditations there because it's one thing for me to tell you the perspectives from hundreds of thousands of years and the different things that people did, but what did you do there? That's important. That's what I think is so magical about taking people and then finding out their own experience in these places.
And how does that happen? How do you help people find their own version of themselves that have been in those ancient
Well,
times?
a lot of people don't realize this, but about a foot and a half off the ground within these sacred places, there's actually light codes. So it doesn't matter what you do to destroy the facade. These
Okay.
light codes come up about a foot and a half off the ground. And what the initiates used to do back in the day, or what some people understood, was they could do different practices in order to connect with the light codes. And you have to use your mind in order to read the information in these sacred places. It's not something you're going to find underneath there. It's actually their codes. So by bringing the people that go into a meditation, they themselves can tap into this information. But also people don't go to these places by accident. And what I've come to understand is that these places actually call people to them. So the fact that you go to these sacred places means you're ready. And then it's
Right.
time to start awakening this dormant information within each person because people are coming back online right now. Like it's happening. Just like the environment that we're in, the consciousness of the earth is awakening more and more. Same with the consciousness deep within us, it's awakening. And sometimes you activate certain DNA when you go to these sacred places because just simply because you're ready. And what I find really fascinating are like the temples. Actually, a lot of higher consciousness that comes through my clients claim that these temples are actually alive and that they're calling people to them. They have a consciousness, like a very strong consciousness, just like the Sphinx has a consciousness. So it calls people to them. And these places store such amazing information. And so you go to these places as a way of accessing this information through the light codes, through the energy within these places, because all these sacred places were built on specific points of energy,
Hmm.
because there's energy and grid lines underneath this earth. And so they're built on these specific points. So you go in there, and that's why these temples were built on these sacred points, actually, because they're fail safes. Just in case people lost information, they would always have the temples and these sacred places, as they would hold the information within the walls, within the energy, within these light codes. So you
Mm.
just go and access them.
Like a time capsule almost,
Yeah, they're
so
time
like
capsules.
energetic time capsule. Were you
Right.
able to, for yourself, I mean, just I'm imagining just the realization that these are time capsules and people are having this experience. For me, that would be enough of a aha moment. But did you have any other specific aha moments for yourself as going
Well,
into these
I mean, you can
moments?
ask Suzanne. The whole time I was geeking out, like nonstop, like, oh my gosh, this is exactly what I thought.
All
And
right.
just I don't know any one specific thing. It was just constant. Oh my gosh, this is really real. This is really
Mm.
true. Is the I think what really hit home for me was going in the Great Pyramid with our group. Is there were 30 of us, and we filmed us doing this chant in the Great Pyramid because a lot of the higher consciousness in the session said if you chant in the Great
That's right.
Pyramid, it can
Yeah.
heal your solar plexus.
Okay.
And so we did this. and the energy was so strong. But afterwards, I listened to the chant, and there's a low hum in the background that's not from our group.
Oh,
So I thought, who did that low hum?
mm,
No one
wow.
can figure it out. It's really loud, and like not really loud, but you can hear it.
You can hear it. Was there in your sessions, reading your books, you talk about, or I should say listening, I'm a cheater, listening to your books. And I love the narrator for the second two books, but I still prefer your voice on the first one.
Oh,
Um,
thanks.
was there any specific tones that you were given, or was it just a general ohm? Did you go in there with like, we're gonna do these ohms, these sequences and that kind of thing?
Well, the higher consciousness just said, just start with the tones. And
Okay.
so we went, but one of the practitioners that was actually with us was a sound healer. So she started out the tones actually.
Oh,
And
okay.
it was just amazing. It just seemed like it was an intuitive thing because there's already so much energy in there that it felt thick with energy helping
Mm,
us basically. Just, I mean, it's like when you go into one of these old houses and the energy's so thick. I mean, it was just anybody could feel it in there,
mm.
full of what felt like helping energy.
So when's the next one? So people can say,
Um,
or is it already
well,
booked
it's
out?
sold out. It
It's sold
sold
out.
out right away, but next September we're about to open that one.
Next September. So are you going a couple times a year now? What's
We're going to go twice a year,
oh right. Nice.
and it's ancient. We call it Ancient Lifetimes.
Ancient
Yeah, Ancient
lifetimes.
Lifetimes with Suzanne and Sarah.
Perfect. Yeah. What a great team to go and do that with. I want to go. I'll have to
You
figure
should
that one
come.
out. Yeah, I know. I need to figure that one out. Um, so you with your you worked with. How did you meet Suzanne, and how did you? Let's get into your origin story with Dolores. I know a lot of people may have heard it already, but just a quick recap for people who haven't.
Well, just really quickly, I wanted to be a psychologist and I wanted to be the best psychologist. I mean, I'm a perfectionist, so I just thought I was going to heal the world, and like it's just ingrained in me. I just really care about people and I want to help people just so they don't have to suffer because I was suffering when I was younger. I had all kinds of problems. I was really overweight. I had all kinds of phobias, fears, OCD, like, and then if people had a problem and they talked to me about it, I was like a hypochondriac super manifester. So I could also manifest their problem. It was horrible. It was just
Oh,
ridiculous.
wow.
So I went to therapy for like 10 years when I was younger. And that's all I knew as far as how I could help someone else. So I thought, well, I'm going to help somebody else, even though none of my problems really got better. But what changed my life was as I went to college and came back home to my family's house for the first time, it was for Thanksgiving break. I walked through the door and there was a mirror that I looked into, and I was just shocked because while I was away for college for like 2.5 months, I had forgotten to have my problems. Literally, I had forgotten to have my problems. I had lost like 20 pounds and I was still eating the same, probably worse food. And I had forgotten to have my anxiety, my phobias, my fears, because I had changed my environment and I had changed my thought patterns. So then I understood it. It was like this big download. I understood that the problems that we face, a lot of them are from our thought patterns. So if I have an issue, I I reverse engineer it and I check what are my thought patterns, what's going on where I'm creating these patterns. And that really changed my life. I haven't had these problems since because say I want to change like an issue, like when I wanted, I mean, I lost weight and I can lose weight really easily now because I'll look at my patterns and I'll literally create new thought patterns and I'll change, my environment and whatever I need to do around the pattern. but I didn't have anyone to talk to about this. So I went to college, graduated, and before going to graduate school to become a psychologist, so I had to do an internship. And my job was to counsel people and actually to give them their medication because it's something everyone had to learn. But I felt like everything I learned was a complete lie within a week of actually being on the job. But I was so gung ho. So I was like, everyone's going to be healed by me. And I thought that all these things I learned in college were true. I mean, I thought these medications were amazing. And I thought, I believed everything I learned. I had no reason not to. And I was just so disappointed. I mean, I couldn't even believe what I was seeing because I thought that people were going to be healed. I thought that these medications help people, but it was not the case. And this is my own experience. So everybody has their own experience, but I was just shocked that this was the leading edge of thought, that um this was all we had to offer people. And in the protocol this is in 1997 for people that communicated with extraterrestrials was to heavily medicate them, and they would be in one of these homes where I was counseling people. So
When you say protocol, is that
yeah,
something? So did the industry sort of have a industry
they have,
standard? Oh wow,
yes, they did. And this is
huh?
97. I
1997.
worked
Wow.
in Boston because where I went to college, and so there were actually, I think there was one person that communicated with angels, and she was labeled as schizophrenic. Same with the person who communicated directly with extraterrestrials. His name was Ton, completely heavily medicated. But us as counselors, we understood that these medications caused a host of other side effects. So
Right.
most of the residents there were on like at least 10 different medications. And, it's just horrific, honestly. There were
Yeah.
no success stories. I never saw one person get heavily medicated, counts, go through counseling, and then leave. Actually,
Hmm.
nobody left. They they didn't leave. So that it was just horrific. And I just couldn't believe that was the treatment. So anyway,
Yeah.
fast forward, I did not become a psychologist because I just thought the whole industry was backwards. I mean, and sorry, I'm not knocking this career whatsoever. This was supposed to happen to me. It was supposed to be like that
Sure.
for me, and everybody's an individual. So eventually I learned about hypnosis, and I wanted to learn more about regression, because I thought if people could go back to the root cause of their trauma, maybe that would help them heal. So I became a master hypnotist in 2009, and I learned lose weight, quit smoking, and past life regression. And it was obvious that right away that past life regression seemed to work. And I really wanted to do something that worked and was effective. So I studied with Dr. Brian Weiss, and he was my first teacher. Did that for many years, and it was fantastic. But this is how I found Dolores. I actually called a psychic, and she said, "Oh my gosh, this is the easiest reading I've ever done because your future is so clear. Most people have different future potentials, but I almost don't want to charge you because this is so easy. I mean, you're supposed to do Dolores Cannon's method, and you're going to get really good at this. You're going to write books and speak about it all over the world." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, this psychic sucks. I don't know who she's talking about. Like, she must have me confused." So I didn't look up this Dolores Cannon person.
Oh,
I
no.
thought
Okay.
if she was just, I was polite and said, "Oh, thank you so much." But I thought she had me confused with someone else. And then I finally looked up Dolores Cannon, and it was exactly what I've been looking for. Anyway, the psychic and I are friends now. She's a really good friend of mine. Her name is Emmanuel McIntosh. She's really good. Um, so once I found Dolores Cannon, I way up from the beginner's level to a level 3. And just like Suzanne, I was teaching QHHT with Dolores Cannon's daughter all over the world. And we taught all over the world right before the quarantine. And then I wrote my books, and now I'm here.
Did
That's
you?
how I got into it.
Yeah, I love your story. Oops. Did you at any time come across John Mack's work? Because he was in the
No,
late 80s, or you know who I'm talking about, John Mack
no,
from
actually, I don't.
what? Oh wow. Okay. Well, he was,
He was,
what was it? Was it Stanford or Harvard? I forgot which university he was. I think it was Harvard. And early on, he was on Oprah back in the 90s and stuff. And he was sort of talking about the abduction phenomenon,
Oh, wow.
giving it weight and street cred. You know, a lot of people are like, oh, that's it's all fake and medicated and all that stuff. But he was like, no, there's something to this. And he actually got expelled from, I think, Harvard, and he had to sue them to get back into position. He was a I think he was a teacher there for
Oh,
psychology and hypnosis and stuff. So Bud Hopkins, you ever hear of Bud?
yes, I have.
Okay. So John Mack and Bud were close, and during that time, and I think Bud may have introduced John to the phenomenon, and then John went off and did a bunch of his. I just assumed that you would come across his work at some point because it sounded like you were on that path. Interesting.
I really don't research anybody or anything really, just because I have so much information just that I don't really need to anyway.
Sure.
But
Yeah.
who
Yeah.
knows?
No, you're.
Watch him be the next person I come in contact with.
No, your stuff is you got such a wealth of information just in your books, and maybe we can go there. As you said, COVID kicked in, and you started that path. I've noticed from your books just how well synchronized it is with all of my interviews over the years with the channelers, and it's so refreshing to hear it come through in the form that you help to bring it out, because these are not necessarily channelers. These are just people that are going to you to find a sessions. So maybe explain how the idea for the books came about, and then what kind of knowledge, for those who haven't read the books yet, what kind of knowledge came through, and how did you start compiling that into a book? What are the inspiration for the books? Like, a million questions, but I'm sure we'll get to them all.
Well, it all started in 2018. I moved from one location, one house, to another house. And literally, right as soon as I got into this new house, like my number of my house number is 1212. And I lived in my old house for 12 years. Really weird. I didn't think anything of it. But as soon as I moved into this new location, all kinds of weird things started happening. So I wanted to take the level 3 class, the QHHT class, the highest level class, and I needed a person to regress right away. And this is right after I moved into the new house. And I asked my friend, who I've been friends with for 10 years, if she would be my volunteer, because I needed somebody that I could just videotape and take to this class. So I asked my friend, and then I regretted it because she wasn't into any of this stuff. But I told my friend Jen that basically I would be regressing her, and she might see a past lifetime or possibly, and then she could find out a lot of things, because I will, as part of the protocol, access her higher consciousness, ask any questions that she wants to know, and then she can also heal herself if she has any physical issues. So this friend of mine, Jen, we had been friends for 10 years, and I knew she didn't believe in things like extraterrestrials or even past lives. So I just couldn't believe I asked her to volunteer when I asked her, because I had known her so well. And I tried to bring up certain spiritual topics here and there, but she really wasn't into it. So I couldn't believe I asked her. But when I did, she shocked me, because she said she had been thinking about doing something like this because she was suffering from this brain condition called pseudotumor cerebri. And she was working really closely with this team of specialists at the University of Miami. And they told her that there's no cure for this. So she was willing to be my hypnosis subject. So when she went under hypnosis for the very first time, she regressed back to these ancient civilizations. She remembered this ancient civilization that she called Aman. And we came to find out it was Lemuria, and it was in the South Pacific. Now, again, this person, Jen, had no clue about these places, none, no preconceived knowledge whatsoever. So she remembered in her
Did you have
memories.
any, just right quick, did you have any
Like, yeah,
ideas of Lemuria? And I'm sure hanging out with Dolores, you probably got some of that.
well, I started right after Dolores passed, so I didn't
Oh,
get to
okay.
meet her physically. Although she comes
Oh,
through a lot of my sessions, well, oftentimes to yell at me, not to yell at me,
to yell at you.
but
Well,
she's
she's
like,
very,
"Hurry up!"
she's, yeah. She's got
That's what
an,
she says, like on a constant basis. "Hurry up! Your book 4 is done already," and I'm like, "I haven't transcribed it yet. Like, just give me a break." But in a nice way.
Dolores
But
before and after, same person.
yeah, yeah, I guess so. I wish I could have met her in the physical, but anyway,
So you had a
I knew
little
a
bit.
little bit.
Yeah.
I knew a little bit about these places. I mean, I had heard a little bit about them, but I was no way like an expert. I couldn't have I couldn't have talked about them, or I didn't really know, only what I've heard in sessions or from other people. So I didn't know even what she was talking about either. When she was describing this ancient civilization in the South Pacific, I wasn't sure if it was Lemuria or not, because they called it Aman, and she was describing it as this matriarchal society, and just how they use special, you know, symbols like the flower of life pattern, these crystals, and just how they used to meditate and communicate through the crystals with their ancient ancestors. And um, then she was taken as a prisoner and spent 60 years in this really advanced, civilization where they had floating vehicles that used like a propulsion system. And just, I mean, the details of her session were so astounding because she really remembered in so many details. And so anyway, after our first session, I asked her higher consciousness, why did you show her this in this lifetime of all lifetimes? And they said that the two of us decided before coming into this life that we were going to uncover this information for the world, that the world had waited for hundreds of thousands of years for this information to come out, and that we had decided that we would do this, that we have done this like so many times before and been killed before doing this so many times before, but the time is right, and that we can access this information once again. And this time we can share it, and it's safe to share it in this lifetime. So I asked her higher self, well, what is the very root cause of her brain condition? And they said it was the catalyst to get her to come see me, because she would have never done this session if she didn't have some sort of a catalyst, like a motivator. And that's true. She would have never, ever done a session like this with me. So I said, well, if that's the only reason for it, can you release it then? Can you heal it? And they said, yes. So all of a sudden, it was on the left side. She could feel it draining. It started draining during the session. And she came out of the session and she felt so good. She just wanted to stop taking her medication. And of course, I can't say anything legally. So I said, well, you might want to ask your doctor. And she said, no, I feel so good. I feel like it's healing. That's what she said after the session. So she went back to check, because her team of specialists were working really closely with her, and they couldn't find anything. She was completely healed after that session. So we thought, well, maybe we should work together again. There might be something to this.
Totally. Yeah.
So this is how we started getting into the books, and how actually we started getting into extraterrestrials, because I wasn't really into extraterrestrials and she did not believe in them. Okay. She was adamant, because I asked her about her belief system before starting working with her. And she said she did not believe in extraterrestrials. So I thought, wow, she is really going to think I'm crazy, because this is what happened in our second session.
Okay.
And here's my friend that I've been friends with for so long. And, you know, I used to like try to bring up spiritual things here and there. And she was just like, oh, I don't really believe in this. So in our second session, I told her higher consciousness. So I put her under hypnosis and I told her higher consciousness, take us to the beginning of the story that humanity has waited for hundreds of thousands of years to come out. Now that it's safe time to tell this story, let's start from the beginning. And I thought she was going to start from the beginning of her childhood in this ancient time period where she considered it to be Aman that we found was Lemuria. And I thought she was going to talk about the beginning of that civilization and everything in more detail, but no, her higher consciousness took, she was an extraterrestrial crash landing on Earth for the very first time. And the details of like her home planet, what they did to like a lot of resources, how they kept their society enlightened, like the method in which they powered their ships. And my friend didn't believe in extraterrestrials. And I thought, oh my God.
You gotta love when that happens.
I'm so weird now. So anyway, they wanted to share about the beginning of a lot of this civilization. They wanted to share the beginning of Atlantis and Lemuria, really. They wanted to show our history in a different way than I had ever heard our history before. This was new to me and to her. So started to understand how they had this other, how they built their society. And it was really interesting because what they would do, and this was, we found out she was from the Pleiadian star system, actually. So when she lived in the Pleiadian star system, and I know this gets confusing, but time doesn't exist in the rest of the universe. So this is also happening in this now moment. Mm-hmm. But when I'll just say when she lived in the Pleiadian star system, they had this method for enlightening their society that was so fascinating. So what they did was they would create like a vortex, like a realm that you would go into. Everyone had to go into this realm. And what it would do was shock enlightenment into you. And it would show you the secrets of the universe. Of course, I had her remember this because I wanted to know what the secrets of the universe were. But it was so interesting because there's some stuff they won't allow you to have too much access to. So I had to do it very quickly. And they kept saying, she kept saying they're pulling this information as soon as I'm trying to remember it. But when she went into this vortex that they would create within the Pleiadian star system, they used these type of crystals to do this. And what happens was they would be shown the secrets of the universe. And the secrets of the universe was that life is just a game. So it's all like kind of like a manufactured game. Like these worlds are created for our experience, for our basically to evolve our soul. But everything happens like in a figure 8 pattern. So there's no end and no beginning, and time folds up on itself. And this game has been going on for longer than human beings can comprehend in the aspect of time. But what the truth of the universe really is that everyone is part of this ancient grouping of beings. Like everyone, like you're part of it. And we've all done this as a group. Like the truth of the universe is that we're all actually one, and we pretend to be separate, but that's not really true. But it's a game. So we pretend to be separate, and then we have an experience in one realm, and we experience that realm, and that realm or planet, whatever you want to call it, goes through a life cycle. And then we try other planets and other realms, and we can continuously do that to evolve this consciousness, this one consciousness. And you know, the truth is that even extraterrestrials are part of this consciousness, that really we're all one, really. And you remember these things when you go back to the in-between, but it's why you go through the process of forgetting. And on this earth is to really have like an amazing experience of pretending to be separate. But they had to learn this. They had to learn the secrets of the universe, and it would shock enlightenment into themselves in the Pleiadian star systems. And they did not want to lose this, because in that way, they understood that they were each other. They were everyone you see. And what happens is, when your whole culture understands this at a deeper level, then there's no violence. So they had to go through this in order to um, dispel any potential for violence, because there's no need to compete with one another when you know the truth that you are the other person that you see. So they were running out of these resources, and Earth is just full of these resources. And we also started to learn that they were like creating a way that they could inhabit a human form as well. And they were seeding the population. It was, I had heard about seeding the population, and that this Earth was an experimental place and that we're considered the experiment. But to hear this from my friend who did not believe in any of it, and not only that, to hear it in so much detail was mind blowing to me. And
right quick. When you say
yeah,
resources, because I think typically when we hear resources, we think oil and gas and that kind of thing.
right.
Could you just clarify what you meant by resources?
Sure. So there's these special, like, they're gems. So what they considered red like crystals, like some people call them purple, and some people call them a deep burgundy, and some people describe them as red. But they're red crystals that they would use, and they're extremely powerful. Um, and it's amazing because most people don't know exactly how to use them. For thousands and thousands of years, they've been hidden in our society, and a lot of them have really been taken away. And then the survivors of Atlantis and mostly Lemuria, knew more about them, but that information has been buried for so long. But that's what they were using. This Earth apparently I don't know, they're hidden, a lot of them.
Right, and that came up through these regression sessions, and
Right.
so back to you're discovering, just right quick, when you were doing this with Jen, you were sort of new to extraterrestrials. Were you new to the story of the experiment, or you had some ideas of the experiment from prior
Uh,
sessions?
I had some basic knowledge, but I didn't really learn it in depth. I mean, I've never researched it through other people's information
Sure.
at all, because the information just started flowing in. And then this weird phenomenon started happening, where people started coming in for their sessions to my house and they would recount the same lifetimes, like the same time periods, not the
Right.
same lifetime, but the same time periods in like Lemuria, Atlantis, or remembering being an extraterrestrial crash landing. So I thought, this is such a strange coincidence. So I asked around to my other colleagues. I even asked Suzanne.
Yeah. What did
I
Suzanne say?
posted it in the on
You
the
guys have a
forum.
nice network too.
Yeah, we
Suzanne
do.
let me in on a little secret. She's like, "Well, we got a team of
We do.
QHHT people that we kind of share information, and this is so I'm a little privy to that, but we can keep that on the DL."
Yeah, because I wanted to know if other people were getting this, if this was
Sure.
just super common, because it seemed like everyone was just remembering Atlantis, Lemuria, or being an extraterrestrial crash landing. And I thought, man, this is really strange. But no one else was having this phenomenon happen. And meanwhile,
Hmm.
the higher consciousness kept saying, even through Jen, through multiple clients, well, you need to put this information in a book, and we're going to share it for you. Just put it in a book. So finally, I started documenting and putting it all into the book, because I had so many people recount the same time periods. And what's funny, and I didn't realize it at the time, was that they were writing it. Like, I don't have to do anything. My
Right.
last book wrote itself in less than a year, because the higher consciousness is what's doing this, not me. I mean, I would love to take credit and be like, oh, good job, Sarah, for writing your book, but I didn't write it at all. I
You just
don't do
organized it.
anything. I
Yeah.
just take it and I put it, and I don't censor the information, because I can't just censor it and be like, well, I don't like that information. You know, I put it exactly the way they want it. And I think that's why they use me. And they share it. They do it. I self-publish my books. And how did anybody find me? I have no idea. You know, right after I published my first book, A Hypnotist's Journey to Atlantis, Regina Meredith from Gaia called me to be on her show. And I've asked her a bunch of times, how'd you get my book? I mean, because the higher consciousness kept saying, just publish your book. You can self-publish it and we'll share it for you. And so I asked Regina and she said, oh, I'm going to find out. So she asked around, where did Sarah's book come from? Then she asked in the community. Then she asked the people, the producers. No one knows. So did it drop itself off in her office? I mean,
right.
I don't know. I really don't know. But
Regina's pretty tapped in. I'm sure some divine way it fell on her desk, you know, who knows?
But it's really funny because the higher consciousness said, share it through books because they wanted me to just basically put everything into the book. Not only were they going to share it, but they said the people that need it will be searching for it, and it will be like a match the people that have been looking for this information. And also this is a way that they can heal people and they can heal the trauma from these lifetimes. With the people reading it, it does something to the people reading it, and it releases trauma, and they don't have to remember themselves these past lifetimes. So I love how the higher consciousness does that through the books, because people will email me and tell me that they've healed themselves through it. And I'm always like, that's great. I thank the higher consciousness though, because just the messenger and the facilitator, you know, really.
But you're kind of on a roll with this, with the books and bringing this information through, and in book 2 with Jen, there was this whole sort of the most recent life. Right?
It was so interesting because when I was done with the first book, I wanted to continue, you know, finding out more about Atlantis and Lemuria. And I want to mention that Jen wrote her own book too. She wrote a book, it's called Child of the Universe. So she wrote her own firsthand perspective. But right now Jen used to live near me in the Florida Keys. But her higher self said that after you heal this lifetime, you've, you know, written your story and you've worked with me and you've uncovered this information, then you can finally move away from the Atlantic Ocean. Because a lot of times we live in places that are supposed to trigger us on some level so that we can release certain traumas. And after Jen was done doing that, she took her family and moved to Hawaii. So she's living in Hawaii, not Maui, actually, but in on the Big Island of Hawaii. And now she's not really writing. She's kind of living off the land and having a great time. But she wrote the book Child of the Universe as a way of getting her information out.
And so, but you've, in addition, Jen was sort of the main subject for book 1 and book 2.
Right.
And then book 3, you had a new person come in, and we had the Native American connections too, which again, your work echoes my work in going into everything that I've been doing. I was kind of surprised how you came through your own conclusions of finding out about how every physical ailment sort of comes from an emotional state. For me, I had to dive into shamanism and into working with the ayahuascaras and the medicine people of, from the Red Road and from other our indigenous, and they showed me that's in addition to the ET channeling stuff, but that kind of coming to the same conclusions, different way. But I'm fascinated how you came to that yourself. That's quite
well. Dolores would talk about this, and then her daughter Julia wrote a book called Soul Speak, but in every session, they'll say the same things. And it really does seem to be the case because these people don't know one another and they don't know what other people say. And the higher consciousness always says that the illnesses that we get or the issues that we get in our body are they're messengers, it's a
Mhm.
message. So if we fully understand what the root cause of it is, and we understand what lessons we were trying to learn through having this illness or issue, then we can instantly release it. And that's how we're actually supposed to process this. So when we're so programmed, unfortunately, that when we get an issue, like say, for instance, this is a really common one. Say, for instance, someone has a left hand issue, like arthritis, okay?
Mhm.
And it's really painful. Most of the time it's from holding on too tightly to something from the past. Like, I mean, it comes up all the time. And so if you understand, why are you holding on too tightly from the past? What are you supposed to learn from this? Or what is the very root cause of this? And maybe the higher consciousness will say, well, when so-and-so got divorced, they weren't able to fully like let them go. And then if you can understand, okay, so now you see the message, if you can let that person go, then there's no reason for the message anymore. So it can instantly be healed. And that's why these sessions are so popular. That's why people go to get QHHT sessions a lot, because it's so easy when you're tuned into yourself and you can really tune in, and the filter that we all have is quiet. Then you can find out, okay, so much about yourself and find out, why did I choose this issue? And it's easier said than done because it
Totally.
sucks to find out that you chose something for yourself to learn, because
Right.
it's like, why did I choose that? That's painful. But it's a message, and it's just how we learn. But yes, it seems that this is how what we chose to do. And sometimes you can have like stuck emotions or different things that just get trapped in different parts of our bodies. That's why I know that I see that you do a lot of these breathing techniques, and that is so key for getting out and locating trapped emotion, though, because
Yep.
if you can really, we forget to breathe. If you can do these breathing techniques, not only are you going deep into whatever it is, but you can release it and you get the energy out of your body instead of keeping it in. I think it's awesome that you do that.
Yeah, I've noticed it's kind of it's on autopilot when you do the breath stuff because you're oxygenating the cells, and it's like the cell is getting a new life that it had sort of been suppressed or you've been hiding it, right? We try to hide
Yeah.
those things, and then it gets a release. And I'm oftentimes in breath work with myself and whoever's doing it, we'll get spontaneous emotional releases
Yeah.
of laughing, crying, sadness, ecstatic bliss. It's all of it, the whole spectrum, right? It comes out. And these are, sometimes we hold the negative stuff, but we also hold the positive stuff too.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
because you're like, oh, I don't have time to feel that right now, I need to whatever, so yeah, it's a
Right.
beautiful modality. And I first recognized that I had an acupuncture session, one of my first acupuncture years ago, in my stomach. I remember they were putting, and then I could not stop laughing for like, this is what, and they pulled the needle out. Oh, I stopped. And then it would put it back in. It was crazy.
Oh my
So I
gosh.
started to recognize that body
Wow.
emotion connection early on years ago with that stuff. And then obviously with working with plant medicines and ayahuasca and stuff. I wanted to ask you, I feel this just came in when you're talking about this Pleiadian, um, almost like a rite of passage
Yeah.
ceremony, or
Uh-huh.
how we have in indigenous cultures, we have Sundance, there's a lot of different types of that. um I kind of feel like maybe the modern day, the earth version of that might be like ayahuasca in a sense. Have you worked with the medicine, or are you familiar with how that works?
Actually, it's going to be my first time, my first time this February. I'm
Oh,
taking a group to Costa Rica,
all
and
right.
there's still a few spots open for that. But
Okay.
I have somebody else, a partner that's doing this with me who is really familiar, and she does different ceremonies. And then we have a shaman, and it's all in Costa Rica, um, where they are facilitating it. But it'll be my first time. But the reason why I really want to do that is I agree with you. I think
Yeah.
it is like a rite of passage, even though I feel like I'm getting so much information from the higher self on a daily basis anyway. They
Sure.
have told me to do it. So
Oh, they have.
they've
Okay. Well,
never steered me wrong. So I think I'm going
wow.
to
How did that come up in your settings? How did they tell you? I'm curious.
oh, through dreams. So I started having
Oh,
dreams
okay.
about 2 years ago that I was supposed to do that. And it wasn't the right time until synchronistic events just started pulling together. And now I'm going to do deep meditations beforehand so that people can kind of release trauma beforehand. And then they're going to go deeper into themselves during the ayahuasca ceremony. But I don't know. I'm not an expert on it, obviously, because I've never done it.
Sure, sure, sure. I'm assuming your friend who is facilitating this has their own retreat center or has vetted the
Yeah.
place and done all the research and all that stuff.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
And yeah. Yeah.
Okay, that's good. Just, you just have to make sure you do a little research into that and make sure, because we've had guests in the past that sort of had told us about some, specifically Costa Rica, but this is all over in Peru, even in Peru.
Right.
There's people that are taking advantage of this new awareness around the medicine and doing not so nice things. So we just have to, be hold good intentions and do our research. But anyways, I think you got it covered.
Oh
I'm
my
not going to
gosh,
worry about you.
definitely. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's actually a reputable place, and they've been doing it for many years. And my friend actually lives there. So and she's
Okay.
done it there many times. So she's I trust her.
Yeah. Good, good. Cool. Well, so let's go, because I want to make sure because we have lots of QHHT practitioners here on the call that I'm sure have a ton
Oh,
of questions for
awesome.
you. But first, let's go a little bit back into the third book, and then I definitely want to hear about the
Okay.
fourth book. So, third book, Red
Okay.
Road, you're finding these connections with indigenous and star people, and so far I'm still like halfway through the book, but what a beautiful way of bringing it together in that way. How did you just tell us about that journey?
So it's just amazing. I had this client who, when he was under hypnosis, he started remembering another lifetime where he was an extraterrestrial, and his job was to look for different places that could seed life. So he was experimenting with like different material, like a rock, a gas, even or a liquid, and they would focus consciousness into it. And if it would spark some sort of reaction, they knew they could see life in that place. And once a planet is labeled as able to see life, it's like amazing. Then they develop like a life path or life plan. Actually, it's really interesting. So his session was really interesting. And I asked his higher self, why'd you show him this session? And they said, because he doesn't understand the energetics of a human, since he's always been like a type of scientist who's lived on other planets and been part of the design team of a human. And so he needs to remember that he created the energetics of a human so that humans can use their emotions as like that, act like a gateway through the universe that he doesn't understand. He needs to really get back on board and understand how the energetics of a human works, and that how you can manifest to using your emotions by focusing on a positive emotion and opening up portals. Anyway, I found out about this new manifestation technique. I wanted to try it. So I did what they were telling him to do. So I focused on a positive emotion. I imagined like things I'm grateful for. Because I have 3 kids, so it's easy. I just thought, oh, I'm glad I have those kids, they were being good that day. I'm just kidding. No, they're awesome. But I focused on gratitude, and then I did what they were telling him to do. I imagined like a portal opening, and that since my emotions allow for a portal to open and it acts like a gateway through the universe, I just asked the universe to send me a new story because I'm always interested and exciting to find out what they're going to show me next. And right when I was doing this, my phone pinged. And, you know, I actually didn't think anything of it other than why did my phone ping when it's on silent? Because I had my phone on silent. And then I saw it was a message. It was like you can't make this stuff up. It's so like, I don't know, magical, I guess. So it was a message from someone I didn't know. It went straight through my messenger on Facebook, which is impossible. Normally you have to be friends. So it just said I had this weird feeling I had to message you. I don't know why, but I message you right now. And I thought to myself, I was just doing this manifestation technique. I didn't tell her that, but I just asked her if she had ever done hypnosis, and she said no. And so I fit her in for a session, and sure enough, here comes my new hypnosis subject, or the person they sent me, basically. So as soon as she went under hypnosis, another sounding voice came through. And I mean, it was her voice, but it was like deeper tone.
Sure.
And it said, my name is Anawaya, and I'm the one who contacted you. But I contacted you because I'm finally ready to tell our story now, because this is really vital information for humanity. I've come to understand that it's almost like a radio happening through my clients. So they just use like different people, and it acts like a radio where they can broadcast information through. And then I put it in the books, and then people can get to it. But Anna Wyatt shared his whole story in so much detail. So I know this sounds terrible, but I test my subjects because I need to believe this to be valid, because if I'm working with someone that I test and it doesn't appear to be valid, I really don't want to, put it into a book that someone else is going to read, because I really take precautions to make sure not only do things check out with multiple people that don't know one another, that don't know these things.
Yeah.
But I also test my hypnosis subjects. So the way I do
you're
that,
vetting. You're doing it's your vetting process. We have to do that in this day and age.
Have to.
Yeah.
And the way I do that is I check for false memory. And the way I do that is I'll ask them really detailed questions about something. Like, for instance, what does it look like when you were 12? Something really small or detailed on the floor or whatever. Then about 6 months later, I'll ask them the same question and see if it's the same answer. That's pretty much how I check for false memory, because if they're under hypnosis and then their story changes like 6 months later, then they're trying to remember it. But if it's the same story and the same details, then it's not false memory. And that's how I basically check these stories. So her story every time when it's a woman that was my hypnosis subject, her Anawaya's story was the same. And Anawaya just told me in so many details his firsthand perspective of walking the trail of tears. And I learned so much from Anawaya that I didn't understand about our history, about that time period, and the connection that the indigenous cultures had. But what started happening was I was so blown away, because when I was working with Jen, when she was under hypnosis, I had her see the symbols for Atlantis and Lemuria, because these places use symbols a lot of the time as kind of like a key, like a holographic key that almost goes into a lock and it downloads information. That's what these sacred symbols really are. And when you just stare at it, it downloads information. You don't have to do anything, just stare at them. So
we did a crop circle, sort of visualizing it. We looked at a bunch of crop circles on Friday, and we were kind of getting those downloads. I'm sure we're all like buzzing now.
That's amazing. That actually helps your brain grow. It does a lot. It's very beneficial for your brain.
We'll do it every week
to look at these. You should. Man, your group is awesome. You do breathing techniques, look at crop circles. That's awesome. So I had her look at the symbol for Lemuria, and she drew the four corner symbol, which I thought that's really weird. Isn't that what the Native Americans use? So then I find
With the
out,
different colors, or like the red,
well, she just
white,
drew
and red.
because she was using a piece of paper that I put in front of her. She drew a circle with, like
Yeah.
a cross in it. And that was the
Okay.
symbol they used for Lemuria. And
Hmm.
I was just shocked to find out that a lot of the Lemurians had, when they were the survivors, had gone into the Native American culture. So I thought, wow, how did they even get? Why? Like, why did they come from the South Pacific to the Native American culture, and then it's hidden in their symbols that a lot of them are from Lemuria. So interesting. And Anawaya was talking about Anawaya called it the land before, the two lands before, um, that the survivors, a lot of them were taken on ships, and that they knew that there were other flying devices,
Hmm.
and that the a
Other
lot of
people.
the yeah, and that a lot of the Murians came to the Americas as guardians of the sacred information. Is still hidden within their culture. Um, and I asked Anawaya as he was describing his firsthand perspective of walking the Trail of Tears, because it was so horrific. I mean, it was like nothing I had ever heard.
Yeah,
It
recounting
was,
that was pretty emotional, just hearing it.
yeah.
And because it's so, the details are, again, all of your subjects, the details that they pull through, I think that's what's so, we get a very blanketed, wide vision through the
Right.
channelers and the channelings that come through. But those details are, wow, it really puts you in that space and you can feel the emotion. And I was getting emotional
Oh,
just
it's
visualizing it and seeing those people, and how
oh, I
how
lost
bad the
it.
white man
Yeah.
was. Yeah, imagine
I
you had some
lost
tears.
I I never cry in my sessions, but I could not handle it. I was just like I had to mute my mic because, as I was sitting in front of her, because I was just crying,
Yeah.
and a couple times we were doing it online too, because we weren't using QHHT to do some of them.
Hmm.
But it was just so horrific. It's one thing like you said, to hear about it, but it's another to hear a firsthand perspective. And then Anna Waya would cry. It was just
Mm.
so emotional. But I asked Anna Waya, why did the white man do this to the Native Americans? Because it's like, it's almost like you can't even fathom that
Hmm.
anyone would do this, especially what they did to the children. And
Hmm.
oh my God. And Anawaya just totally surprised me with his answer. He said that his culture understood, or many of them, not everyone, and no one said it was okay, but they
Hmm.
understood that the white man were some of the earliest victims of this negative energy that had inserted itself onto the planet so many hundreds of thousands of years ago. That the white man were some of the earliest slaves, and that their culture had been stolen from them so long ago,
Hmm.
and that the white man has no idea. Anawaya kept saying the white man has no idea who they are anymore because their culture was taken from them, and they used to, have so many amazing beliefs and understand magic and live in harmony with nature, just like every other indigenous culture.
Hmm.
But when that was stolen from them, they just walk around like they have no idea who they are because they've forgotten. And so,
Disconnected.
yeah,
Yeah.
and Annie Wyatt said he didn't blame them.
Hmm.
He understood, and he knew it wasn't the white man that they were fighting, which was
Hmm.
really interesting because it's like that level of forgiveness too that he had for these horrible people. And the man with the mustache, oh my
Yeah.
gosh, like
Yeah. That was hard
hated
to
him.
hear.
Yeah, it was
Well,
horrible.
but it's also, it was called the fear molecule, right? That was in some
Yeah,
of the earlier books, this
fear
fear molecule,
virus.
fear virus. I'm sorry,
It,
the molecule, that's Suzanne's work with,
okay.
Beverly.
With Beverly.
Yeah. But I think it's similar. I think they're talking about the same
I
kind of
think
thing.
I bet you
Yeah.
that a lot of people pick up on the same thing because Jen, even when I was working with Jen, remembered, Antarctica was such a beautiful place. And then the fear virus snuck in and everyone
Mhm.
was so devastated by this fear virus. And so many of my clients will remember these civilizations way back in the early times of seeding the population before the fear virus snuck in. And so it was like this energy that asserted itself onto the planet that could create diseases and bring with it a whole host of new experiences. But it also brought in other negative energy that feeds off of fear. So other energy that actually keeps itself growing through the use of fear is something I wish that we were taught, because then
Mhm.
people would understand that our fear in itself produces almost like a food and it benefits
Yeah.
this negative energy that feeds off of our fear, but fear isn't really even real.
Mhm.
So, but we're not taught any of this stuff
Right. I
at
have a
all.
theory. I have a theory where it snuck in based on your what came through with your books. So you talk about the Cedars, Jen and the ship that came through, right? How she was the captain
Yeah.
and she was on a mission and she thought it was going to be a round trip mission. And then it
Yeah.
was kept from her. The elders kept the information that it was a one-way ticket
Yeah.
from her. I think that's where the fear virus snuck in. Is if
Maybe.
when you have someone that's not transparent and they're afraid that they may not survive, so then they start manipulating the story to because that's what's best for the survival of civilization. And it's like, well, the captain of the ship and the people were not told that, so then that's perhaps where that fear virus snuck in. And then now the people who are here, or the beings that are here to uh do the mission, so to say, now there's this whole fear of we have to reproduce and keep our population going, otherwise we're going to die off, and that's
Right.
and the Greys are kind of have that thing going. And there's a lot. Anyways, that was sort of when I was reading it, I was like,
Well,
oh,
that
there's
kind of
that's
makes sense. I want to ask that question next, hypnosis
yeah.
subject session
Where
I
did
have
this fear virus
because
sneak in?
because it was weird because you think that these advanced societies like the Pleiadian star systems would would not do that to their people. Even though Jen forgave the
Right.
people in charge, it's still really interesting. You think that they would, you know, um, be all loving all the time, but it seemed like there was definitely a hierarchy. But yeah, the Greys are really interesting, though. I mean, they've been coming through a lot of my sessions. Some of them, not all. There seems like there's over 100 different types of gray extraterrestrials. But the ones that claim that they're working to help humanity and doing a trade, it's interesting because it seems like their originating star where they originate from is fading beyond physicality, but they claim that they are human. So they're like, well, stop calling us extraterrestrial because we're just humans, one version of human.
Mhm.
And so they're using a viable version of themselves to create actual physical bodies, because if their star fades beyond physicality, then they just go into the abyss and come out into a totally different system whatsoever. So they fade. I mean, they already have lost their bodies. I'm talking just about one particular type, but
Yeah.
they've already lost their bodies and then avatar bodies. But apparently, in order to have an ascension, a full ascension, you have to be in a physical body. So they've been doing this for the millennia because they can't seem to get back into a physical body. And they that's their ascension, is getting back into a physical body, whereas ours is getting into more of a light body. So it's
Right.
really interesting.
Well, we're helping each other in that sense.
Exactly.
That's what comes through a lot of the channelings is their, the soul contracts of our allowing ourselves to be taken, in the 80s and the 90s
Hmm.
with the grades and the hybridization programs and all that fun
Right.
stuff, which again,
Well,
you
yeah.
touch on as well. Well, before our time gets too carried away. So I know we're just barely touching on, there's so much information we can cover here, but, So book 3 has you started bringing in people who had Zeta lives and who had other Arcturian lives and these types of things. And you're asking different people about that's kind of where I'm going up to where I'm at with the book. You have to kind of give me some tips on what's going after. But I just find it fascinating, just like me and my work with talking to different channelers about the same subjects. You're getting very similar
Wow.
descriptions of the archetypes of the different races, the missions, and like the Arcturians being sort of the most advanced as far as spirituality and evolution, and they're here helping us. The Zetas with their physical issues and creating some AI human robot type of things to help them so they can embody, like you said, like all these topics come through the same and come through in the same way, different format, but the stories seem to match up. So where are we at now in the 4th book? Where just the big picture stuff, so we can go and get all the details later. What's your inspiration for the next steps?
Well, it's always so strange the way it happens, but I guess that's how they do it. So after, Jen left, right before Jen left, only Jen and I knew what we were working on. And we were working a little bit on like the kind of after Atlantis, it seemed like England, Scotland, the knowledge was around there, and this mystical place called Avalon. So we just didn't finish any of that information, just shelved it basically. But we had a couple sessions about it, and I wasn't working with Jen. I was working on the Native American book. Well, this woman named Christy was watching a video of me talking to Regina, and she thought that I worked at her company. And so she downloaded the video and watched the interview. And then she was shocked because this new Christy that was watching this video, who had no previous knowledge about any of this stuff, wasn't really into spirituality, but she was into health and fitness. So somehow I guess this video popped up on her feed, was shocked because I was talking about this woman named Christy as Jen's past life and this brain condition that Jen had. And then I was talking about Christy's life in the 1970s. And the new Christy had dreams about this lifetime in the 1970s and has the same brain condition. So she thought, this is really weird. I've had dreams about being this Christy in a mental institution in the
And this is
1970s.
the same Christy that Jen
Yeah. So
had
Jen,
because Jen, just to sort of fill in the holes, just so I'm clear, and maybe
yeah.
it may not be clear with everybody else, but so Jen, you regressed in her most recent life. She was put into an institution because she was having these visions of Lemuria, of being this sort of how do you describe it, where she's sort of the head of the village, or the she's the queen, right? She's the queen.
Right.
Yeah.
Jen in the 1970s was named Christy, according to her past lives, and worked with a different hypnotist to uncover this information before.
Right.
And it was too early for this information to come through. And that's why Jen came back now to uncover this information once again, but with me, and for me to share it is basically what they said. But in the 1970s, Jen remembered that past lifetime as Christy, who had to go through so much torment in this mental institution because every time she tried to share this information, she was called crazy. And they said it was a result of her hormones because they claimed she was suffering from female hysteria, and she was lobotomized for it. And she killed herself off the Brooklyn Bridge. And we were searching for Christy, but could not find Christy because we couldn't really figure out her last name. I found where her mom lived. I got a lot of details. Someone could probably look her up with all the details that I found. But anyway, this new Christy couldn't believe that we were talking about this because she had been having dreams about this lifetime. And so she thought, who was I? And why was I talking about this? So she downloaded that interview, and then she quickly read the book and was just totally shocked because she had the same brain condition. And
Wow.
so then she wanted to book a session, but I didn't have any sessions available because I booked pretty far in advance, but I had a workshop coming up. And Christy was thinking about doing the workshop, but she wasn't sure. So she went in her garden and she was just doing gardening, and she found the amount that I charged for my workshop in her garden. Serious. This is true.
Like cash or
Yeah, cash
what?
in
Oh
her
my
garden.
God. All right. The
Yeah,
fairies brought it through.
in her garden. Like
Amazing.
just like sitting there, like
See,
down to the
gardening does
dollar
pay.
amount. Garden face.
Yes.
So she thought, well, this is weird, because she's new to all this stuff, right?
Mhm.
So she books the workshop, and then she wasn't feeling well because of this brain condition. So she emailed me if she could come in right before the workshop. And I said, I'm sorry, I'm fully booked. And right after I got off the email, my client for the day miraculously canceled. So
Oh,
interesting,
all
right?
Okay.
So I fit her in because she wasn't feeling well and she didn't want to not have to do the workshop.
Mhm.
So as soon as she goes under hypnosis, she remembers this past lifetime where her name is Alice. And Alice lived in the Middle Ages, but Alice had access to so much information. Her mom was Welsh, and her mom understood that these red crystals,
Mhm.
doesn't know anything about this
Mhm.
stuff. So these red crystals, her mom sewed them secretly into these tapestries. Okay. So then we find out all about these red crystals. But meanwhile, I know about the red crystals, but
Yeah.
I'm not saying anything. So Alice is telling me that the stories they used to have from this mystical place called Avalon, and her mom's side of the family had these crystals and where they hid them. Okay. So then she starts touching on where I left off with Jen. And I'm like, oh my God, what is happening right now? So then I asked her higher self, why did you show Christy this lifetime? And they said, because you didn't finish the information with your last Christy. So we've sent you a new Christy. And I was just like, oh my God. And they said, yeah, there's so much more information about the Druids, about ancient Avalon. And what they said was that we're coming into this golden age. It doesn't look like it, but we're on the verge of the golden age, and people are going to need the ancient ways. So they're going to write down what the ancient ways are so that when people come and need them, that they're going to put them. So they're putting it into this fourth book, and I'm almost done. But I found Alice.
Hmm.
I found her. So she lived in the Middle Ages, and she described in so much detail her lifetime. So I figured I could probably find her because she lived in a noble family. Her mom had access to these crystals. So it turned out her husband was the nephew of King Edward the First. So then I found her. Her name is Alice de Lacy. So anytime I'm talking, she was the Countess of Lincoln. And so anytime I've been talking to Alice for months now, and I finally found out who I was talking with. But anyway, her history is unbelievable because people don't know this type of, I mean, everything checks out, but nobody knows her real history and like what really happened to her. So it's really fascinating. I think this book will probably be done writing itself by December, I'm guessing.
Wow. Wow. How cool.
Yeah,
The adventure
a lot of fun.
continues.
Yeah.
And just to sort of support your what you said about this ancient knowledge coming through and ancient information, sort of going back to the old ways and mixing the best of two worlds. I'm a big proponent of this idea of solar punk. Have you heard of solar punk?
No.
It's kind of taking old ways and mixing it with the current technologies, but getting back to nature. And anyways, it's a lot of fun. We'll get into that later, but let's open up to the questions, guys. I know a lot of you, maybe some of you've read the books and probably have a ton of questions there. And just in general, what an amazing journey you're on, Sarah. And it's, you've just to watch you sort of come out into the space, with Jimmy Church and with Gina and everybody else, Gaia, you're very loved in the community. So, and just this brief interaction here, I'm sure everybody can feel and know why. So, lots to start raising your hands if you have questions. Oh, Paul, he's already in there. So, are you okay to take questions? Do you need a break or anything?
Oh, no.
We usually we'll go to the end of the hour here.
Okay.
Okay. So go ahead, Paul.
Yeah, it's been amazing. Thank you for joining us. My question, the red crystals you mentioned, are they known to us? Because we know, I guess, like 5 from my research anyway. 5 different kinds, like ruby, garnet, jasper, tiger's eye, and something called, let me see here, carnelian or something like that, carnelian. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I've asked this question. It's a great question. And I always get from the higher consciousness, they cannot tell people because they're so powerful that if people understood what they could do with them, they could destroy civilizations with them by understanding. So they have not told me.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
All right. Yeah, that's when we're not until we're ready, we have to have it's always that balance of this was a big on my journey when I was producing the citizen hearing on disclosure about ET disclosure. My whole motivation at that time was the world needs to know this information so then we can understand that free energy is real, and then we can let these energy devices sort of come through. And I was really pushing the free energy. Still am, I still want the more awareness we can have about it. But I realized I got the blowback from the government, and, my life got crazy and, lost my business and all kinds of weird things started happening. But what I realized is, the world's not ready for that information because we could easily, in the wrong hands, destroy things. So, but it shouldn't be up to our military to govern that stuff, though. It's just the natural law of the universe is going to govern that. And we have to trust that if we're not getting the answers we need right now, it's not ready for us to have that information. Which you do.
It's so true.
Yeah.
And we're so highly governed. I mean, there's like a council of light beings that are constantly protecting us. Always. Like there's no way. I mean, they have said there's no way anyone's going to nuke the whole world because there's so much. Like they watch this kind of stuff.
Totally. So, but we can keep pushing. And I love during your regression sessions how you like those. You find those workarounds. Well, they're like shut you down. Well, let's go this angle and that angle, and maybe we can. And you do, and you actually get a little more. You're very sneaky. You have that hypnotic. You're able to do it. I love it. I love watching or listening to your work, I should say.
Thanks.
Good job. Keep it up. Lisa, go ahead.
Hi. Hello.
Hi.
Hi, Sarah. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Everything you're saying is super amazing. And I'm going to read your books.
Thanks.
I have a personal question, actually. I've tried being hypnotized several times. I had my recent one was a QHHT session, and I'm just not able to go into the hypnotic state. Like I'm always able to get into alpha, but whenever they start asking you to do the visualizations, like to see your surroundings, like I forget. You guys have a certain certain sentences that you use in QHHT to get you to the level. So like I forget exactly what you use, but if I'm supposed to see the sky, I can see a sky, but then my mind just totally takes over, and it's like, is it a clear blue sky? Are there clouds? It's constantly searching for details instead of just seeing it. Or if I'm supposed to like see what I'm wearing, I'm like, okay, am I wearing a hat? Am I wearing shoes? Stuff like this. And then when I get to the part where you're in the hallway and you have to choose a door, I'm like, which door is it? Which door is it? Frantically searching. And then I just get so frustrated. So do you have any advice?
Yeah. Next time you go, ask the practitioner what they would do in that case, because you don't have to see anything. A lot of people feel the information. It's just like if you were to describe the clothes you wore yesterday, if you didn't visualize them, but you knew what they were, you can use that sense, because when people are under hypnosis, they have different senses that are have that they're used to using, that they aren't aware of. So some people have like an inner knowing, and their inner knowing is what is the sense that they use, but it's not visual, you know? So, you know, basically you don't have to see anything. If you know what it is, that's fine. You don't have to go into a session where you're only seeing. But if you want to, you can practice yourself in the morning when you still can remember your dream. That's the deep theta state. So if you can try to prolong that a little bit and just stay in that state and get used to what that state feels like, when you do want to, create that state yourself, you'll know what that state feels like. I mean, what I do, or the way I learned to hypnotize myself actually, was I just practiced for a week, where every morning when I could still remember my dreams, I knew I was in the theta state. So I got used to what that state felt like. And then I learned that since I knew what the state felt like, I could bring myself back into that state. And also, you can also keep trying, because it's so worth it. I mean, these sessions are just so profound. They have life-changing effects. And it sucks. It must have been so disappointing when you felt like you didn't get anywhere. But actually, these sessions can help you no matter, even if you just saw a little bit or you felt a little bit. So they're so profound, but don't give up. My mom was like the hardest client I've ever had. And I
Yeah.
didn't give up. She's like my easiest now, but just don't give up. Try again, but maybe ask the practitioner, what do you do if I don't see something? Just so you can see what their answer is before going into it, knowing that you probably have a different sense that's more developed than your visualization is.
Right.
But I mean, you could just go into it. Remember, go into it with the idea that you can feel the information. You don't have to see it.
Okay, that's good to know. And I'm lucky because the woman that I saw, she was doing her practicum, and she offered to give me free sessions until she really wants to help me to
Aw.
get going. Yeah, I really feel so called to have a past life regression. So I really want to do this. And I've been, I read, do you know Jose Silva, the Silva mind
Yeah.
control?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so I read his book, so I'm starting to like learn that method. So I think that'll help me to be able to go into theta better.
Oh, it's so easy. And I mean, this is great. Maybe you'll help her a lot if she's doing her practices, so you guys can work together and both be experts in no time.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Lisa. I'm going to sneak in a quick question here for myself. So have you been regressed, and have you connected to your Atlantean, what was the guy's name? He was like
I don't know what my name was, but
Okay.
I do remember Atlantis. And the one thing I was so bummed out about is that no one's invented those sandals I had. I mean, I was an older gentleman and I was a judge.
Yeah,
That's what I
That's right,
remember
the judge.
in Atlantis.
Oh, so
but-
you remember that too? So you heard it from Jen, and then you actually regressed and had the same.
Well, I learned it through my regression first, and then I put Jen under to learn more about it because she could tune in. It's just amazing.
Right.
But my
Crazy.
sandals were amazing. They would touch on the middle of my foot, and I was an older gentleman, and then they worked with my foot, and they would kind of like propel me, but they felt like, how like an electric bike feels to ride? They felt like that. So it would like work with my foot to create like an electric bike sandal. It was amazing. I wish someone would invent them because it was so cool. And then I could walk around the inner ring on these sandals. It was just
Well, we
so
just got
cool.
the invention of LP22, which is a superconductor that should start to get us into the world of lower end, small end anti-gravitics. Those maglev trains.
Oh,
So maybe
cool.
we'll have some LP22 sandals. I think somebody should work on that.
Yeah, someone needs to work on it. It was it. I can tell you what they look like. They were
Okay,
so
we'll
cool.
get into that later. Go ahead, Sophia.
I just have a quick question, just regards to Alice and the book you're writing at the moment. What sort of group did she consider herself, like druidic, or what did she call herself? With the
So
work?
okay, it's so interesting because people during this time period were still a little bit tapped in through their bloodline to spirit, and they had to totally be quiet about it or they would be called a heretic. But within her mother's bloodline, they could tap into the beings that they called it Twyla Tag, or I don't know if that's the right translation. I'm still trying to figure it out. But these beings are like, I guess, non-terrestrials, but living on this planet. And so they would tap into this, I guess you can't call it extraterrestrial, but a different realm within this planet, these beings that are from the stars. And they considered themselves awoken from the stars. And Twyla Tag, or something like that, is what they were calling themselves. But they could tap into this consciousness, basically. And also, the consciousness was also part of the forest. So the trees were like so conscious that when a person of that bloodline or that had that ancient knowledge would go into the forest, it would wake up the trees, and they would use nature in these ways that could actually heal you. I mean, you didn't have to do anything. The tree would know exactly how to heal you in these ancient times using like certain techniques. So fascinating. So it wasn't something outside of this earth. The beings they connected with were within the earth, actually.
Yeah, and so I live in the UK, and I find, it's wonderful here. But I'm so fascinated to figure out. I write about that time period that you're talking about. All of these ancient sites, sacred sites around the UK, are marked by these beech trees that would have been planted about 500 years ago. And I want to figure out who planted them and why those specific types of trees. And there's burial mounds and Avebury and all through Scotland, and they're either ringed by them or covered in them. And I want to know who,
So
and
interesting.
yeah.
So beech trees, huh? That's so interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. I'm still finding everything out. I don't know. I'm wondering if it has something to do with beech trees. I don't know the name of the trees, but that would be interesting if it's beech tree.
Yeah.
No. But what's interesting is they connected to this force within the earth, like the fairy realm, the fae, the cultures that were so high vibratory within this earth, and like the Pleiades outside of this earth, because it seems like as the consciousness raises, we're going to be able to see the different levels and dimensions that are living on this planet as well as the other one. So I think that's why the higher consciousness has been sharing this through my clients recently. It's my theory anyway.
Thank you.
Keep connecting those dots. That's it. Go ahead, Wade.
The line of these red crystals in your book about Atlantis, the prison queen gave the crystals to her and rebel Atlantean protege who then left to some mountain range. I was wondering if the crystals she took are related to these ones that you're talking about Alice had.
Yes, that's exactly correct. Those are where the crystals went. So the crystals, after this time period, they went up north. And then apparently, according to the Welsh tradition, they found the crystals. But they still had that bloodline a little bit where they could tap into them and understood a little bit. But a lot of that information was still a lot duller than it was back in ancient Lemuria or Atlantis.
Yeah. The other question I had, it seems like you made do different types of hypnosis. Some
Yeah.
of them are actually regressions of past lives, and others seem to open up more of a channel to a higher consciousness.
Yeah.
Can you describe the different approaches you use there?
Sure. Well, QHHT has to be done in person, and it's something I do with my paying clients. So with a paying client, I'll do a full hypnosis session where I regress the person and then access their higher consciousness and ask their questions. But I have hypnosis subjects that I'm working with, and I use my own technique for that. Basically, I usually have hypnotized them multiple times, and I've given them like a keyword, or sometimes I don't even use the keyword. I just put them into a deep trance and then access their higher consciousness in my own method that I'll use sometimes for writing my books. Because I always have about 5 or 6 hypnosis subjects that I'll use that can never meet one another. And they don't know what I'm working on. So I use them at all times so they can test the information. Because say I have some information for book 4, I don't want so-and-so to know. But at this point, it's okay. I've already used everybody and got most of the information. Now I just have to edit. But for book 4 and go through some minor details, then I'll ask similar questions to that person who doesn't know person A. So I can just see if this information is on track or not. So I use multiple different types of methods, really. And then occasionally I'll do things online, but I can't use QHHT for online things. So like with JK Ultra, I just put her into hypnosis, and then just ask questions.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Wade. Yeah, we'll get it. If we have time, I want to ask you about JK Ultra's regression. Was that was after her ayahuasca ceremony or before?
No, that was before.
Before, okay.
But
Yeah.
we're going to do another one. Oh, I think the 29th.
Okay, cool.
That was a lot of fun.
That was fun. She's unpacking a lot of stuff for
Yeah.
us all to kind of witness. What a experiment. Like me, we're putting ourselves out there.
That's
Catherine,
great.
go ahead.
Hi, it's so nice to meet you. I finished QHHT level 1 the end of last year, and so I'm like in my internship right now. So it's like a real treat to have you on the call. But I'm like deep into Dolores's books. I know you said you don't read a lot of other people's work, but have you read her Nostradamus series? Because I'm on like book 2 of Conversations with Nostradamus right now, and I was kind of curious if you'd read those or.
I haven't read her Nostradamus books. I read a couple of the Convoluted Universe books that she put out, but she comes through a lot of the sessions that I do through multiple people, and she has said a lot of his predictions were like they were coded and they're not things that she wanted people to worry about. She also told, it's funny that you're asking me this. Oh, when I was working on book 3, there was a huge chapter I took out because she told me not to put it in there. She said when she was working with Nostradamus, she got caught up in it. That what happened was she thought it was her job to share it with humanity, that she needed to warn them. But now that she's been on the other side, she can look back on it. And this is what she did not want me to do. So she could look back on it and she saw that by warning people, it could help to create a certain future potential. And that she was so caught up in this because she said she was working with him and she was so excited to do this. Like she watches me and she's like, I know you feel the same way. Like you get caught up in it all and you get excited. But she said she understands now that there is no such thing as fear and that we're constantly creating our own reality. And the trajectory that we're on is wonderful. And there's no need to worry people about something that's most likely not even going to come true, but she didn't want me to put it into stuff. And this was stuff about the jab that that was coming through some clients that was going to put in, but then the higher consciousness was saying that this was not this was not a good idea, that that everybody ultimately makes their own decisions, and
Right.
so and people can benefit from both decisions. And so it had a little bit to do with that, a little bit, but not all. But yeah, yeah.
No, thank you for so much for saying that, because it's so funny, because I've come to a place where I try to like take in, like I did the fear thing at the beginning of the pandemic just because nobody knew what was going on. But then like I really had some revelations about just keeping my center, and like, okay, I can hear information, but like not dipping into fear and whatnot. But it is interesting because because I did the QHHT, I kind of want to read like all of her books or most of them. And so I got into the Nostradamus, and I'm reading it right now, and I'm halfway through book 2. So I'm feeling like, yes, like what you're saying, she's getting really caught up into it. And
Yeah,
so
she gets really caught. But also she wrote about the pandemic in Convoluted. She showed me where it was. It was like right in there. There's a page about it. Convoluted Universe. Forget. I have to ask her. I don't remember. But it's in there. And what she was saying was that people have different realities. So everybody's creating their own reality, because I, like many people, chose a side. So I really believed like this was the way. But she was saying, no, that's not the case, because it literally could be your reality, but it might be different for somebody else. So this might be the best thing they can do. And that is the truth for them. So, and this could benefit them in so many ways. And everything in this universe has a positive and negative. So yeah.
Yeah. We don't know why their soul chose, what they chose to experience. They chose to have a certain experience.
Yeah.
No, you're saying all that. That's really insightful. So because I got certified, I wanted to do I wanted QHHT done on me, because I wanted to do past life regression for years. And so it finally happened after I got certified to do it. So, but the woman that I worked with, I didn't do psilocybin assisted, but she offered it. I wanted to do just like the pure version of it. But I want to ask your thoughts on if you have heard of people doing mushroom assisted hypnotherapy sessions, and like your thoughts and feelings about that.
Well, I've heard of it. I've never tried it myself, but I think that healers feel an intuitive call to heal people in the way that they're being guided to. So if it's your intuition that draws you to a particular type of healer, then use your intuition. I don't think anybody is wrong when their intention is to help heal others.
Awesome. Yeah, I kind of thought it was brilliant, because I love plant medicines and I love the regression and hypnotherapy, but it was just amazing that she had just put these two modalities together and was doing her own thing, even though I chose to not do it assisted just for my first one anyway. But awesome. And one last question, if we have time, I wanted to ask, like, when you are, I know Dolores calls it contacting the SC, the subconscious, but I hear you're using different language. So when what do you call it with your clients? Their higher self?
I usually call it the higher self.
You ask for the higher self.
Because, I've actually asked for the subconscious, and I get the actual subconscious. And I don't want the actual subconscious. I want the higher consciousness.
And what do you do when you run into problems when you're trying to, like, if you have somebody who's maybe difficult to get in that deep trance, or they're resistance, or they're fighting, or they're still in their left logical brain, and they're like, I don't want to say tips or tricks, but like, how do you like try to get the segue in to like make that connection?
So here's the easiest tip, really, is you can tell them use your imagination, step into your imagination, because the answer is going to be right. So if you have them step into their imagination, you ask them, okay, just tell me what you imagine your higher consciousness to say. It will be their higher consciousness, but then they're taking the pressure off. They're like, oh, okay, I imagine my higher consciousness would say blah, 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 blah. This is really good for the really hard, people that just don't want to give up the fight. And then they wake up and they're like, whoa, with it, while they're in it, they don't realize, because it hypnosis doesn't really feel like anything. It's that same state when you can still have access to your dream. So you think, I'm always going to remember this dream. I'm totally awake. And then you wake up the client and they're like, oh, I wasn't awake, was I? And it all starts to fade, you know. So just they can just step into their imagination, use their imagination, and you can find out anything.
Yeah, that's awesome. And how long have you been doing the hypnotherapy now? How many years?
Since 2009. I suck at math.
2009. And so, and you feel like it just gets better with practice. And like, do you feel like it was a rocky start, or you feel like you've just always been like really like the Midas touch with this work? Or
Oh no. So, no, I definitely needed a lot of practice. And you know, just like anything, I think it gets easier with practice. And then you can even tell right when your client comes in how it's really going to go, you know, just by talking to them.
yeah, that's awesome. Thank you so much. Does Dolores does she talk to you, or does she talk through your clients?
No, she talks. Well, she wakes me up a couple times in the morning. She'll wake me up right before my alarm if I'm about to go see her daughter. She'll or she'll you know, when anytime I get a psychic reading or a mediumship reading from people that don't know me, they'll be like, this woman is here telling you to hurry up. It's basically like everything she says is like, hurry up, get this on the show on the road. You know, it's like what I hear from her all the time. And the first time she ever came through in a session, she was mad at me for making a mistake. So funny. But
you're getting like impressions.
no, I wish I could communicate directly with her, but it doesn't. Sometimes I feel like I can hear her a little bit, like in my ear a little bit, but I don't know. It's mostly right when I'm waking up in the morning or through clients.
That's awesome. No, super cool. I've asked for her to be one of my guides and support. So
I'm sure she is. I'm sure she helps everyone doing her work.
absolutely. Well, thank you. It's so nice to meet you.
So nice to meet you too.
Thanks, Katie. I just to piggyback on what Katie was saying there, and Lisa, you know, with this hard to get into that state type of thing. So my very first QHHT session, which was like, I think 2014 with the practitioner in Atlanta, because I didn't have faith in myself. So in the morning, I took a little microdose of cannabis, and I thought, okay, this will help just relax me and get into that state better. And the first thing that I was regressed to, you know, we're going to an important time in your life and, you know, something of significance. And then I had this vision that I was a plant. And I'm like, is this the cannabis or is this me? So I'm wondering, have you ever had that type of merging of consciousnesses? Because that's what we do when we ingest these plant medicines. Could we be channeling the plants? Could we going back to an important time and their things? So is that's something we should be aware of then if we're introducing mushrooms or other things, and perhaps we're not getting the true authentic version of ourselves. We might be.
It's definitely something to consider, because I remember, I used to use frankincense.
Mm-hmm.
Someone told me if you use frankincense, it'll help people go into the hypnotic state easier. So I was using it with all my clients for a little while, but I had to stop because I noticed that everyone was being regressed to like a tomb, burying someone, like, you know, being wrapped as they're dead, looking outside their body. And I was like, oh, but that's because sense and different things bypass the conscious mind, goes straight to the subconscious. But, you know, in your case, it could have been that you were just tuning in to an actual memory, or it could have been influenced by the plant itself.
Right.
But then it's hard to tell. And the beauty of doing it without any other medications whatsoever is you make that connection with your higher self without any outside help. Because once you make that connection, then you could see how it actually talks to you all the time. And how it shows you different signs and synchronicities and symbols. And then you could kind of start talking to yourself, you know, talk to your higher consciousness and understand how it communicates with you.
Totally. Yeah. So just know if you are going to go and use some aids, that it's not, if you're mixing consciousness. That's what I kind of look back at it and I'm like, if I want the more pure experience, then I need to not do that. But it was good. It was good. It was a good learning curve. All right, Ceci's up. Go ahead, Ceci.
Thanks, Reuben. So I have a very, I guess, personal and specific question, but so I finished all three of your books right before I flew back home to Maui. And, you know, in your books, you talk about this kind of merger between what was the Atlantean culture and the Lemurian culture, and they were both kind of moving in different directions and ended up, you know, destroying each other, or had to have this cataclysm of destruction. And now we're approaching this time of merger. And, you know, me personally and my community here, and the way that we've stepped up for each other, and the things that are happening and the systems that are being designed outside of the existing system that we're operating in, and the way people are coming together, everyone is really being activated and being called, and is feeling things. And is, you know, when I share the story of these two cultures and, you know, destruction, and then this is the time of the merger, it really resonates with a lot of people. And people are like, once you said that, they start to kind of have this remembering. And I was just wondering, you know, because you talk about the edge of the Lemurian, or what was the Lemurian, you know, continent, I guess. You know, we're here in Maui. It's like the edge there, and I think you said, or the being said, that Easter Island was the last remaining, you know, true remnant of the border. And so I'm just wondering if there's anything additional that came through you could provide about what's happening here and right now, and like in this moment, because being here, it really feels like something is different, something's going on, and there's some kind of like shift, you know, specifically here.
Oh my gosh, yes, definitely. I mean, the energetics of the imprint of a civilization never leaves. And so it's very much on all the Hawaiian Islands, the imprint and the energetics of ancient Lemuria. And according to the higher self, a lot of people that live there, and actually most people that remember these places, are looking for their tribe again, because most people walking the planet today have lived during those times. They have memories, actually. Most people do, of living in those time periods. And we're really supposed to have separated ourselves so that we could return to a tribe once again. And so many of us are looking to rejoin with our tribe, because it was so beautiful, such as a beautiful society in Lemuria. And we've had to lose it all to regain it. And so sometimes we need certain catalysts and negativity in order to teach us what we really want. And so a lot of people are coming back together through the use of negativity, unfortunately. But as far as what happened on Maui, according to my clients, this is not nature. It's man-made, unfortunately.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, that we know there's a lot of, for us here, it just feels like it's the system, right? This isn't like I don't know. It's just the system had created the recipe for this type of level of destruction. And so we as a community are coming together to create a new one. And in doing that, we're also bringing in, you know, new technologies, you know, to provide the infrastructure to do that without any permission from the existing system. Like to all the people that are here and all the people from the government that are here, none of them are doing anything. And so we're coming up with solutions on our own. And it feels like the more we do that, the more we're kind of releasing from the reality of that structure and creating our own future.
That's beautiful. That's amazing. Gosh.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you.
Thanks. You.
Yeah, thanks, Ceci, and prayers to yourself and everybody on the island there who for a speedy recovery and rebuilding, and not in the controlled mechanisms that what I think is just so great is this great awareness around all of these different agendas that are going on, and there's lots of speculation on it was this or that, but we definitely know there's some meddling that needs to be stopped, and hopefully with that awareness we can create a better place for people to thrive and whatnot. So prayers go out.
Yeah, because I mean, who knows if it, I don't know for sure. I've only had a couple sessions where it's been talked about. Who knows how it exactly started yet? I don't know. I don't have enough confirmation, but it's just so beautiful what you're doing. And my heart goes out to you. I can't imagine what it must be like. So it's just amazing that you're able to come together and help one another like that. So thank you.
Well, Lonnie's asking if how can we help? How can we help those on Maui that are working to change the system? Well, everybody says he's doing some great work on doing that. So maybe he can leave some links in the future, or I'll get some more information from him, and I would just really follow his journey. Hopefully I'll be helping to put a microphone on that. So that would be one way. I posted in the Fridays lowdown. There's some GoFundMe. There's a lot of independent, smaller groups that are doing GoFundMes. I would move towards those smaller ones. The Red Crosses and these bigger institutions. A lot of them have been compromised, as we've mentioned. So follow your heart and make sure you do your due diligence with and vet people before you just blindly throw money at some of these groups. So, but there's a lot of really good ground roots movements that are happening in this sense. So, oh, great. Ceci said he's going to send some links. So perfect. So let's definitely support him in everything they're doing. Thank you. All right. So we're a little over time. Sarah, are you okay to ask? We got a couple more questions. We can go through them.
Yeah, sure. It's fine.
All right. So Vegan Dust, go ahead. Good to see you here. It's been a minute.
Yeah, hi everyone. It's been some time that I have been here. So I'm glad to join the session. And my question is very practical to Sarah. Is it possible to do a hypnosis session online via Zoom, or is it not safe?
It's perfectly safe, but for QHHT, they're not done online. They're done in person. But there's so many different types of hypnosis. And I studied with Dr. Brian Weiss, and his is done online.
Oh,
I just
alright.
saw someone wrote Welsh red crystals. Is that a thing? I haven't heard anybody else talk about that. Some just really?
Sorry, yeah, but it's Sophia was online earlier. We'll get some more information, but you were saying so QHHT is not done online, but there's other.
QHHT is not done online, but there are other modalities that are.
Okay.
And it's not that it's not safe. It's just that Dolores is not here right now, and so when she developed her class. At that point in time, it wasn't safe to do so. People's minds were different than they are now. And so back in the day, people would be completely unconscious when they would have a session. But as our consciousness is raising and we're becoming the higher self almost, it feels as if people are more awake and aware. But really what's happening is they're deeper levels of states of trance, but they feel more awake and aware because the two sides of their brains are merging. But it's just not done online. QHHT is just not done online.
Okay, thanks. One more question. How does it work if a person like me, for example, I'm not a native English speaker? So does hypnosis work in foreign language?
Oh, definitely. But actually, what's really amazing is you have so much more awareness. So you can speak fluently, usually in your session, because you have so much access to information when you're under hypnosis. And things seem easier than they do when you're fully conscious.
All right, great. Thanks. I have also different.
awesome. So you think I can get my wife to speak better English if I get I think she might be less censoring herself.
Maybe.
All right. Well, I'll suggest that. All right. Donna, you're up. Go ahead.
Sorry. My battery's on low. I'm just trying to plug in.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, I'm lying down. So my question was at the beginning of your hello, by the way. At the beginning of your talk, you said that all the answers are like within us.
Mm-hmm.
So I
Yeah.
was wondering if you have, sorry about that, a method of kind of self-inquiry, self-hypnosis. I did do a QHHT session, but I kind of wasn't very happy with it. I don't know, the girl doing it kept trying to sell me on David Icke at the end, and she was really into David Icke, and not that I have anything against him, but you know, he's a bit extreme, and it was very political, and she was really kind of banging on about it, and it just put me off her whole integrity. So I didn't even, so that's another question. Have you got any good practitioners in England that you know of? Because
Well, usually the level 3 practitioners, we have to redo our whole class every 2 years. Very well looked after. So if you find a level 3 practitioner, you know they have to be good in order to be a level 3 practitioner. Just every 2 years. Oh, interesting. Well,
anyway.
But that's
so then I thought maybe I can get into it on my own and access my own information, you know.
But even, you know, who you are into, that's who's most important to you. You know, whoever I like isn't, that's just my own or her own opinion. It really comes down to what do you believe? Because if we all create our own reality, basically, you could have a completely different reality than somebody else. So that's why everything really is in you. All the secrets, all the wisdom is really in you. And that's who you should go to learn from. But I guess if you're going to try to do something on your own, which you can, but I wouldn't give up. I would just go see somebody else you resonate with. I'm sure there's other practitioners and you know, there's amazing practitioners that are level 1 and level 2 also. So maybe just look up somebody else and look at their picture and see if you kind of connect with them in some way. But but the way I would practice on my own is just when you wake up in the morning, just ask a question and see what the first thought is that comes into your mind, because you'll have less thoughts in the morning before you fully wake up. So your conscious mind is kind of sleepy still. So you can access the information in that state.
Okay. Yeah, that's helpful. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thanks, Donna. All right. So just before we say goodbye, there was a couple things in the chat I think I missed. I just wanted to see. Marlene is asking about how can you differentiate between implanted live memories versus real past lives? Would the subject's higher self let you know if this is going on?
Oh, yes, because people do have imprints, and sometimes but the higher self will say, oh, this is like an imprint. Like they always give it away.
I see.
So it's not hard to find. But some people who haven't really lived a human lifetime before will have an imprint just so they can have a memory of a past lifetime without having to actually live that life.
You actually get people that haven't had a lifetime here before? Or...
There's many people that are from different planets that are here to raise the consciousness. So when they incarnate into human body, they take the consciousness of that planet too, and it raises the consciousness. And also beings like higher level ascended masters will come into multiple bodies because their energy is so high. And so they incarnate. And a lot of people have been talking about like Christ and different ascended masters coming through the new children right now. They're so high vibrational. And what that does is even helps to shift the consciousness even more. But some of these kids haven't had like a previous lifetime before, but they're imprinted with knowledge.
Right. Cara had mentioned, she says, "Oh, we were dreamt a few days ago. My daughter named someone Alice. And when I woke up, I thought I should keep my eye out for that name, Alice, because it's, she comes across it.
Wow.
It's not one I come across much. So I guess that's some synchronicities there. Yeah. So lots of fun things. Quick question from Cynthia. What would be the biggest piece of advice to someone who wants to go about to get their first QHHT session?
I would just see who you resonate with, and just go for it because it's so profound and it helps so many different aspects of your life and it helps you learn who you really are. So I don't think there's really much you really have to do to prepare other than trusting, because these sessions aren't just sessions. They're so set up by your spirit team. So just if you can go in with an open mind and just trust.
It's a beautiful modality, and I feel it's part of the toolkit of channeling, plant medicine, meditation, hypnosis, in this healthy way. So I think we have lots of tools. Let's access them. Let's use them all. And I love your exploration into going as deep as you've gone with your books and all of this information, just bringing it out. And it's so resonant to what we're dealing with now. As Ceci was saying with Maui and the Lemurian consciousness and this going back to the feminine energy and finding balance and just everything you're doing is great. So keep it up.
Thank you. You too.
Yes, thank you. Well, we went over a little bit, but thank you everyone. And what I usually do here, Sarah, on Sundays, we do an after talk where I just leave the portal open and we let members talk amongst themselves. And you're welcome to stay and join. I usually, by this time, my coffee kicks in and I have to take a little bathroom break and get a little something. So I'm going to sign off for a minute, but we'll say goodbye for now. Thank you so much.
Thanks, you guys, so much. It was wonderful joining you. Have a great rest of your Sunday. I'm going to go fishing with my son, or I'm not going to fish, but he's going to fish. He's been bothering me.
And I'm going to put all your links down below, but
thanks.
You have a very fun Instagram thing going with your kids. You're always doing some fun games and all kinds of fun adventures. I'm sure we'll see about your fish adventures today, maybe.
Oh gosh. Well, it's like Stormy. I can't believe he still wants to go. I'm just going to take him.
Excellent. So we'll put all the links down. You're booked out for what, years now? What's your
I try to only book for 1 year in advance. So book, but I still have there's a workshop I'm doing with Suzanne, and that's going to be in Jupiter, Florida. There's a few spots left for that. And then the Egypt trip for next September, we're about to open that. And if you're interested in that, just put your name on the list and you'll be one of the first people to know, because it books up so fast. Like our first trip booked in 2 hours. So,
nice.
Because I guess we keep the cost down too. So
good. Thank you. Yeah.
It's affordable
Accessible.
and it's really life changing. And the workshop is, Suzanne and I, we're going to do different hypnotic, I'm going to do some regression. So it'll be like 3 days of past life regression. Suzanne's going to teach her, her channeling class. And then it's a bunch of different, deep inner healing meditations. But what I found is that people really heal well in a group. And like I said, we're really supposed to be part of a tribe. So what's really wonderful about doing these in-person workshops is that you can meet people that you can support and they can support you. And it's wonderful to find people like that, like-minded people. So there's some spots left for that, and that's in January this year, and it'll be in Jupiter, Florida. Lots of fun.
January next
Gonna
year.
have next year, next year, and just some other things coming up. So yeah,
Well, I'll
lots
make
of-
sure and get all the links down below the
Thanks.
description for this. And yeah, we'll continue to support your work. If you haven't check out her books. Sarah's books are amazing, and I can't wait. What do we have an estimate on the fourth one?
I'm thinking it's probably going to finish writing itself by December.
Okay.
I'm guessing.
I love that. It's going to write itself in December. Perfect. Perfect. Then and are you still going to Vegas for that event, or
yes.
what's going on there?
I'm
November?
I'm going to be speaking all about like the latest information coming through QHHT sessions, as well as some information about all my books at Disclosure Fest, Stairway to the
Right.
Stars. But if you go, please make sure you say hi to
Yeah,
me.
definitely. I was
It's gonna be
initially
a
I
lot
was
of
planning on
fun.
I was planning on going
There you go.
initially, but then I went to Vegas last week. Yeah, 2 weeks ago. And I stayed at the Lexar, and I don't know. I don't think I'm gonna go again. I think I kind of got my dose of that. We'll see where we're at in November, but for now I kind of got that through my system. But you're close, so maybe if you want to make a trip to Big Bear. it's
Oh,
not
I'd
too
love
far.
to. I'm
Yeah.
also going to be in Vegas the September 14th through 17th.
Oh.
Going to be doing another event called the Alien event, actually. So
Alien
I'm
event.
going to be talking about the extraterrestrial communication that's been happening through my clients. That's September 14th through 17th Alien event. And then I'm going
Okay.
to teach people
Wow.
how to tap into the quantum field using self-hypnosis techniques. And that's
Perfect.
just not that long from now.
Yeah,
That's
that's just like in
months.
a couple
So,
weeks.
Yeah. Maybe I'll have to come by and meet your cat and your wife.
Please. Yeah. Well, we have
be
lots of
fun.
salad and eggs.
Oh, that's awesome. I like salad.
Okay. All right. All you can eat. All right. Cool. All right. So thank you so
All right.
much again for your time, Sarah.
Bye, guys. Have a wonderful Sunday. Wonderful to spend this time with you.
Bye-bye.
Head to interviewwithed.com, click join, and let your curiosity lead you. Understanding that exploring these new worlds and concepts can make a positive difference in our personal lives and together as a collective.